Yes, you heard me right. It's time to stop being agnostic. Whereas the atheist says there is no God, the agnostic says, I don't know if there is a God. My case here isn't just about atheism, but even about being agnostic about God and Christianity. To be clear, I'm not saying you're evil or stupid for saying you don't know. I'm saying you have all the information you need to make a choice. This video isn't meant to knock down or deride, it's meant to encourage. I'm going to lay out a case why, intellectually, agnosticism should be abandoned, and give a note at the end about why committing is the practical thing to do. First, let's talk about how people decide things. We don't come to believe anything because we have 100% confidence. The standard of evidence in court is beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond a shadow of a doubt. We can't 100% prove that our friends love us. We go based off what is called the best explanation. Here's a video by Inspiring Philosophy that explains how to find the best explanation.
An actual method for determining which worldview is most likely true is using philosophical criteria. The best explanation will have explanatory scope, explanatory power. It will be the least ad hoc, the most plausible, and it will provide illumination.
But of course, I can hear some of you saying, believing in God exists or miracles happen isn't the same as a courtroom. I would need a lot more evidence to believe that. And of course, I don't fault you for needing a bit more confidence than normal. I'm just saying not to feel like you need 100% confidence. All you need is to be reasonably confident that Christianity is the best explanation. What's happening in these cases is called assigning a low prior probability. The prior probability is how likely something is to be true before a real investigation gets going. The lower the prior, the more evidence it takes to raise the likelihood of that theory being true. Taken charitably, all the phrase, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, means is that you think Christianity has a low prior probability. So step one in leaving agnosticism is realizing the prior probability is not everything. Even if you think it's really unlikely God exists, that opinion comes before all the evidence is considered. Once you think to yourself, is the prior probability I have for Christianity versus atheism fair? Then you are ready to examine the evidence. And the best way to examine the evidence is according to the best explanation criteria from earlier. For example, let's consider the theory that best explains the disciples believing in the resurrection of Jesus, that he actually rose, that they all hallucinated, and that they made it up. If we go in with a materialistic, Humean, empirical approach, then the prior probability of the apostles making it up or having several separate hallucinations, one after the other, might score higher prior probabilities. But these are only the prior probabilities. We need to update them using the evidence. When you consider the piece of evidence that enemies of Christ converted, the probability of one after another hallucinations goes way down because that theory has more trouble explaining that piece of data. The theory that the apostles lied has trouble explaining why they were skeptical when they first heard about the resurrection and why they were willing to die for their beliefs under persecution. It is also unclear what benefits they would have been seeking. They gained no political power, no wealth, and adopted an even stricter conduct than those around them. Of course, that's not all the evidence, and those aren't all the theories, but that's an example of how a low prior probability can be increased after considering the evidence. So next time you hear a Christian say that God exists because the constants of the universe are fine-tuned, don't respond with, God is unlikely. Think about whether God is actually the best explanation for it. Think of if you have a better explanation. But you might say, just because we don't know for sure what explains the universe doesn't mean God does. Later on, we might find new evidence that explains it and disproves God. You're just using God with the gaps. But is that really how we want to be arguing? Sure, maybe new evidence does appear, but we judge based on the evidence we do have, not evidence we might one day have. It's like saying to the judge, I know my client looks guilty, but maybe the investigators will someday find new evidence that shows he's innocent. It's crazy to argue like that. It's effectively future science of the gaps. And so secondly, I say, take all the evidence best explained by Christianity, the report to the resurrection, fine-tuning, the moral argument, and all the evidence you think is best explained otherwise, say the problem of evil or divine hiddenness. You can continue to update your prior probabilities. You can try it with a probability simulator linked below. And finally, it's impossible to truly live as an agnostic. Most of the time, it looks identical to atheism, but sometimes someone who's truly committed might occasionally pray or go to church. If that's you, you don't have to straddle the line anymore, living in some ways as an atheist and in others as a Christian. Go ahead and analyze your initial assumptions and all the evidence pertaining to Christianity. You might just be surprised to see you think Christianity is a lot more likely than you thought. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate a like or a subscription. If you didn't, keep the discussion going in the comments. And by the way, live by the way.